Welcome, one and all, to the show. I normally start off these shows by telling you how I'm all wired up and fired up and ready to go. And as I'm sure you can imagine, I am neither of those tonight. And I'm sure you're not either. This is my absolute least favorite show of the year to do. I hate the fact that we are talking tonight about a season that fell short. I hate the fact that we are having this discussion tonight because I, like you, were looking to have a much happier discussion later this month. But as is generally the case with this team, it was not meant to be. Episode 42 of the BlueTruth Show, New York Rangers Talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sports Block Network. Like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram. Thank you to those who have joined the live stream. If you're watching live, if you're watching the YouTube replay, thank you for that as well. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll catch us on one of the live stream one of these nights. Tonight is Thursday, June the 6th, and we have a lot to unpack as we look back on what was, what could have been, and forward to what may be coming. As you can imagine, the circumstances, tonight is obviously not going to be a joyful show, but it's one we have to do. I wanted to give myself a few days after the season ended just to reflect on what I saw and process it, and not just, come on here and talk to you irrationally out of anger or disappointment. That's really not what I aim to do with BlueTruth. I wanted to give myself the proper time to calm down, be less upset because I'm still upset, but be able to talk through this with a sense of poise and rationality. Tonight, we'll talk about what happened, our reaction to it, why we think it happened, and a road forward to next year, which will be here sooner than we know it. The shortest off seasons are the longest off seasons. We have a lot to go over tonight. I do intend to get to comments, but I may go on some long-winded soliloquies tonight. So if I don't get to your comment, please don't take it personally. That's just why. Tonight will be probably one of the longer shows because there's just so much to unpack with all of this. And hopefully talking this through will help you the way it will help me. It will be cathartic for me. I saw a comment from someone who keeps up with BlueTruth a lot. Dimitri, if you're watching, thank you for this, by the way. He said that he needed the therapy session with me. That meant a lot to me because it validates the existence of the page, the podcast, and the work that I do to keep this thing going and growing. We're up over 11,000 followers now, just a few weeks after our third anniversary. Listen, I can't thank you enough for your support. It really, really does mean a lot. Just some comments coming in before we start. There's Ray Leo, a Devils fan. Hope all is well. Ray, it's not. That's why you're here tonight, right? Justin, hey, Brian. Jonathan Riggs, break out the scalpels for the autopsy. Ryan Leach brought the lasagna. What's up, Nick? How are you? Michael. Short summer. Let's get back at it. So before we get going, I would be remiss if I did not wish a happy 85th birthday. It's not 8th birthday. Gee, I can't type. To Eddie Jacquemin. He's definitely 8 years old. Retired number 1. He was the second ever retired number by the Rangers after Roddy Gilbert. An all-time great. And one of the great examples of the goaltending that this team has been blessed with throughout the years. Hockey Hall of Famer. Just wanted to wish a quick happy birthday and recognize the great Eddie Jacquemin. But as I said earlier, it's one of those nights with a lot to talk about. So get something alcoholic. You'll probably be better if you do, and get comfortable. The New York Rangers lost the Eastern Conference Final in 6 games to the Florida Panthers, who returned to the Stanley Cup Final for the second consecutive year and will take on the Edmonton Oilers starting Saturday night. The Rangers season is over, and for the 29th consecutive year, the Rangers will not hoist the Stanley Cup. The drought continues, as does the sadness. one of my best friends, who is a Rangers fan, really primarily as a result of our friendship, because I have that effect on people, was texting me after game 5 with some choice expletives and how it's, quote, it's just never us. That it's never us that wins. I felt that too. I felt in many ways that we keep watching the same movie with this team. The characters change, but the story stays the same. On the last episode before the Eastern Conference Final, I implored you all to believe in this team. Now that it's over and they haven't rewarded that belief, I don't regret that, because my reasoning for it was true then and it's true now. I said that the people who didn't believe in the team, at least overtly and in public, did so because they weren't over the Devils' loss in 2023 and they did not want to put their heart on the line to be broken again. I said that if you cared at all about this team, if they lost, which obviously they did between then and now, but if they lost, it was going to hurt regardless of if you were all in with them or you held back. And I do believe that to be true. The people right now who are telling you how they knew it all along, it was all smoke and mirrors and this and that, to me, they are just putting on a front. They hurt just like the rest of us. They just don't want it to be seen. I think that that's an exceptionally stupid way to root for a team, but to each their own. And let me be really clear before we get into the crux of tonight's show. I said before the Florida series that to that point, the Rangers had accomplished absolutely nothing. And now that it's over, we need to be real and acknowledge the fact that the Rangers accomplished nothing this year. They lost. 31 teams lose, 1 team wins. I see a lot of people who are saying how great of a season it was and this and that, and I have just never subscribed to the theory that it is a good season if you don't win. Like we said last show, and it bears repeating, when the Rangers were in rebuild, they got high picks as a result. Those were not successful seasons. They were productive seasons. Very productive. The San Jose Sharks, for example, had a hugely productive year this year. It surely wasn't successful, but it was productive. Only 1 team wins, so only 1 team has a successful season. Hockey, like all professional sports, is not horseshoes. Getting close to something doesn't mean anything unless you actually get to that something. If you want to be happy that they got where they got to, be my guest. But I'm not wired that way. As viewers of this show know, I don't buy division champions anything. I would not have bought conference champions anything. I don't believe in commemorating either of those things. None of these things matter. They are just stepping stones on a journey that now that the journey is over, they mean absolutely nothing. For the people who bought Metropolitan Division champs shirts or hats, or the one that said President's Trophy winner, what are you doing with that stuff right now? What are you going to wear it to? Why? To be reminded that they lost? Makes no sense. That's why you don't buy it. In their exit interviews with the media on Tuesday, they echoed this sentiment. This was not a successful season because they did not reach their ultimate goal. As you can imagine, I completely agree. And it's good that they're acknowledging that moving forward. That's what you wanted to hear. At least that's what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear them wax poetic about how their regular season, it was great, because it really doesn't matter. Peter Laviolette said, quote unquote, you have to get through the 82, which is true, but it's just to get into the playoffs. We will look forward to 24-25 later on, but as far as the 23-24 season, it's over now. And we can look back and discuss what happened and why. You generally see things with much more clarity when you're not in the moment. As level-headed as I like to think I am and try to be, at the end of the day, I love this team more than I can ever possibly put into words. It is as much a part of me as anything. It is something that is soldered to my brain. It's embedded in the fabric of my being down to the cellular level. Sean Stein from Two Guys, One Cup, another Rangers podcast you should absolutely be watching, and I know many of you do. Please, if you're not, check them out. Those guys are fantastic. In their group, he asked something to the effect of, if you don't enjoy the playoffs, why watch? He equated it to, he doesn't like to eat fish, so he doesn't eat fish. Makes sense. And I responded to him by saying that I don't have a choice, because I really don't. I said on the MSG Man Cave commercial that some of you know me from, that every third thought in my mind is about the team and I can't turn it off. And I meant every word of that. This is just who I am. And they're a part of me. A very, very deeply embedded part of me. I would like to think that for the people who know me personally or otherwise, that the New York Rangers come to mind within the first 3 word associations, or however you want to say it. It's just who I am, and they're a part of me. And I wanted so much for them to win. At this point in my life, like, if I'm just being honest with you all, I've got a great life. All I'm missing in my life is for my hockey team to win for me. That moment, that rush of emotion, the hugs and the tears and the release of all of this that's been built up, the parade, the banner, all of it. I wanted all of that so much. Life is good, though. I really don't have a lot to worry about other than that, and I'm very blessed in that way. Same stresses we all have in the world, but really, being me is not bad. Things in my life are wonderful. I have the absolute best wife in the world, who is as understanding as can be with how I am about all of this. Like, I think of anyone in the world, she gets me as much as anyone possibly could. And she's the second best thing that ever happened to me behind my son, who is starting to catch some of this same sickness I have with this team. Maybe it's in the blood, after all. My dad came to my house and watched all the playoff games with me, and he's looking at me as I'm in very visible distress at points in this run. And he's asking me, like, why I'm this way and why I look like I'm about to throw up and a bunch of other things, as if I have any control over it. I have no control over my emotions when it comes to the Rangers. I don't. And I don't shy away from that. The simple solution would be for me to just not care as much. The complex solution would be for me to just not care as much. I can't. I just can't. And this ties into the whole thing about believing in this team. If it doesn't hurt at all right now, then it never meant a thing to you. And I would rather feel pain than nothing at all. It hurts a lot right now, and I can't sugarcoat that. I'm very disappointed. Well, we all are, or at least we should be. Every year that they don't win for you is one less year in your life that you have to see them win for you. When they die, part of us dies with them. It's always a reminder to me of mortality. You really begin to question, as you get older, if you'll ever see them win again. The whole 30 years since 94 and all of these random occurrences and this and that, you can't block all that out. You start to get that team of destiny vibe, and then they lost. These are all ideas we get in our head because our desired outcome is what it is. And as obscure as something is, when you desire that outcome so much, you internalize this completely random occurrence as a sign that something's coming that you want to see happen, even though it has no relation whatsoever. Human beings are aspirational by nature. I wouldn't categorize us as Ranger fans as a group to be a generally optimistic bunch, but there was a general, this could be the year with this fan base. Hope is not a strategy by any means, but the way the team seemed to have that little bit of magic, I think it was Vince Mercogliano said it was like pixie dust. I'm a Disney kid. It made you think that it was possible. And we all started to get those thoughts in our mind of what it would look like and what it would feel like. So to steal a song lyric, the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. Silence can be deafening sometimes. Most comeback wins ever. Great. To be fair, if you're not losing a game, you can't have a comeback win. And maybe that was something we chose to ignore as we went along, and it may have been a harbinger of treachery to come. But I've said 100 times on this show, and I'll say 100 times more, that for the highs to be high, the lows have to be low, and this is certainly a low. But to me, It's a different kind of low than previous years. We posted this graphic from NHL Network about 3 seasons have ended, how they've ended. And there's some commonality to them, right? In that the Rangers had a 2-1 series lead after game 3 each step of the way. And then they just stopped scoring. And they lost each series in 6 or 7, all on the road. But for me, each outcome, even though it's in the end the same, felt very differently. In 2022, they lost the Tampa Bay Lightning in the conference finals in 6 games. It took a couple of miracles for them to even get to that point. It took a 3-1 series comeback against the Penguins on their 3rd string goalie, who is now in our system, and a 2-0 series comeback against Carolina on their 2nd string goalie, just for the Rangers to get to the 3rd round. It really had no business being there, but they were. And they got a 2-0 lead. And they had the lead in game 3. But then they dropped 4 straight. I remember being on my deck telling my dad, like, hey, you're rolling the parade, right? Like, that's where my mind was. Up, I think, 2-0 in game 3, whatever the score. They were up in the game. That year, you weren't mad that they lost because they essentially came out of nowhere and they went on this run that was just a surprise. You clearly weren't happy about it, but you felt that things were going in the right direction. In 2023, they lost to the Devils in the 1st round, a Devils team that they dominated and then fell apart. They had no direction. Their coach was an idiot. Their goalie went to the bench to yell at them during the game. They didn't even show up for game 7. This super team-esque roster that brought in Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, they had a 2-0 series lead and lost 4 of 5. Last year, you weren't disappointed that they lost. You were angry. Very angry. The basic just lack of effort blew your mind. Those good vibes from the year before were blown into a million pieces. This year is not that year. It's neither of those years. For me, truth be told, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. I think I'm talking to my son. If I'm mad about anything, I'm mad that I'm not mad. It's not like last year to me. The Rangers lost to a better team. The Panthers were better than the Rangers. They just were. I don't want to hear about this. They won the President's Trophy and whatnot. You watched the same games I did. The better team won that series. The way the point system is in hockey, more and more, the standings mean nothing other than you get in the playoffs. Florida was the 2nd wild card last year, and they went to the finals, basically the 8th seed. Florida was the Atlantic winner this year, and they went to the finals. And we were talking all playoffs long about how they weren't favored to win the cup, and they were an underdog against Carolina, and they were an underdog against Florida, and how could this be for this team that was quote-unquote the best team in the league? Well, because they weren't. They just had the most points. And as the series went on, it became rather apparent to anyone with functional eyesight that the Panthers were the better team. And you can look at a number of different metrics that would tell you that. It becomes more and more clear that despite the results in these games all being very close, in some cases cosmetically close, but still very close, that the Rangers were going to have to hit an inside straight to win this series, if you want to use a poker term. If this were blackjack, the Rangers had been dealt 19 and the dealer was showing them 20. And they had to hit and pull a deuce from the shoe. Whatever analogy you use, the point is, they were just in a very difficult spot in this series. The things that they did well, Florida did better at suppressing. The things that they did poorly, Florida did well at exposing and exploiting. The 2023-24 Rangers, for all intents and purposes, were an elite power play and an elite goaltender. At 5-on-5, they were a very average team all year long. When you look at the advanced statistic Corsi 4, which we've discussed before, and I'll refresh you, is how many total shot attempts your team takes. The top 4 teams in the league in Corsi 4 this year were, in order, Carolina, Edmonton, Dallas, and Florida. The Rangers, in this metric, were 18th, which is below average. A lot was made in the Carolina series and the Florida series about the Rangers being out-attempted with shot attempts. The Rangers did beat Carolina. I'm not taking that away from them, but they also won a couple of coin flip games against Carolina. If those coin flips go the other way, then the top 4 teams in the Corsi 4 metric end up as the final 4. So to me, there's a lot of merit in that. The more you're firing pucks at the other team's net, the more you have the puck and the less they have the puck. Only good things can happen when you have the puck. Only bad things can happen when the other team does. It's really not that complicated. So we should not really be surprised that if the power play dried up, they probably weren't winning anything. If I told you before this, if I told you the Rangers would have 1 power play goal in the series, you'd have probably assumed they got swept and it was really ugly. This year, the Rangers lost to a better team. It is perfectly fine to acknowledge and accept that reality. The Lightning were also a better team in 2022. The Devils, they were not a better team in 2023. So the outcome is the same, but the feeling is very different. It's not semi-optimism like 2022. It's not pure vitriol like 2023. It's, to me, more of just an acceptance that the other team was better. This Panthers team beat it into us over the course of the series. There were people who were unhappy that the Rangers weren't more physical or that they weren't better 5-on-5 or that they didn't defend better or be more aggressive with a forecheck or laundry list of things. And I just don't see how that's a logical viewpoint because they are who they are and they got to where they got to by being who they are. To expect them to become some different team in the playoffs than they were in the regular season is just nonsense. Like, it's not a logical take. That's just not going to happen. That's not who they are. An average 5-on-5 team is not just going to flip a switch and start dominating possession. They weren't going to just wiggle their nose like Bewitched and become a big forecheck team. You can't realistically expect these things. That's not being serious. People said that when the power play went dry, that they should have changed the personnel in the power play. Well, the power play was one of the 2 primary reasons the team was relevant. They were gangbusters in the power play this year, but the fact that they were so reliant on it shows a problem with the roster construction that's frankly not easily remedied. But let's just say they were going to make changes to the power play. Let's just humor. So the guys on the first power play have really defined roles. So who comes off? You need Vincent Trocheck on the ice because he's the face-off guy, and winning the face-off creates a lot more zone time, so you can't move him. You need Adam Fox because you need Adam Fox. And if you need to know why you need Adam Fox, then you need to get medication or stop whatever you're on. You need Artemi Panarin because he's your most talented offensive player by a mile. So you can't move him. You need Chris Kreider because he's your net front and he's your screen. And he scored a bunch of goals off deflections and rebounds. In the last 3 years, Kreider has 52 power play goals. That's good for 3rd in the entire National Hockey League behind only Leon Draisaitl and Sam Reinhart. It's more than Austin Matthews. It's more than David Pasternak. It's more than Connor McDavid. It's more than Nylander and a bunch of the NHL's brightest stars. The name that's left is Mika Zibanejad. Well, Zibanejad is 6th in the league in power play goals over that same time frame. So he also has more production than that laundry list of really big names in the NHL on the power play that I had mentioned. There is a reason Peter Laviolette came in, and he didn't change the unit from years prior. It's not as easy as just saying they should have made a change there. Alexis Lafreniere would surely see more production with actual power play time, but there's only 5 seats in this game of musical chairs. The parking spots are reserved in this parking lot. Now, we'll see if that changes next year, but in the moment, the way they played this year, I completely understand why the power play wasn't changed, and I wouldn't have changed it either. What is probably the most frustrating about this outcome compared to the other 2 years, despite the Panthers just outplaying the Rangers substantially, they were all essentially 1-goal games. Some of that was cosmetic, but still, basically all 1-goal games. So despite the way that the Rangers were just caved in defensively, Shesterkin was in God mode the way Henrik used to be. We have seen this movie before. The characters change and the story stays the same. Anyway, despite all of those bad things that went on, the Rangers were in every game on the score sheet. They just fell short. Despite what your eyes saw, if you were open to seeing it, and how much the Rangers controlled next to nothing in the series, the results were very close in each game. If they could have gotten that one goal in a couple of spots, they could have won the series. But they didn't, and they lost. And it's easy to say, they should have made adjustments and changes to what wasn't working. Well, what could they have done? Realistically and specifically, what could they have done? They tried a variety of people with Mika and Kreider. Didn't work. They were never going to change the second line because that would have been idiotic. It was their best line all year. They restructured that bottom six over and over again. They changed the defensive pairings. None of it worked. And the New York Rangers season is over. I know I haven't done comments right now. I have to go back to some comments here. So, Frankie, I'm sad still. Yes. Joe, what's up, buddy? How are you? Angelo, hello. Connor says, it's distasteful, but I'm not wearing black. No, I you know, it's funny. I didn't even think about that. That's good by you. That's good job. Ray, it's all gonna come back to bite the Mets season with the cap. Let's see. John Rock, amen, Brian. Listen, as I said, two guys, one cup. Great Rangers content. Jim and Eddie, BlueTruth Underground. Great Rangers content. Please make sure you're supporting those guys that do a wonderful job. Jennifer, how are you? Walter, it means nothing to the fans, but everything to the owners and players looking for his new contracts. Blah blah blah. All one guy's opinion. Yes, Michael, that's me. I'm on the show. If you want to have a show with 11,000 followers, I'll watch it too. Mika was shit all year because he had a kid. Rangers are part of our DNA. This season was not successful. Rangers, again, I mean, you are agreeing with me right now. It is. This is who we are. They would not abandon their dump and chase strategy. I don't know if he's talking to me, Garth, but I'm 40. So thank you for calling me a youngster. Feel free to block the page so you never see it again. Dave, who I talk to all the time. 56 years of watching the Rangers, I saw them win once. My standards expectations for both the team and the crowd are not very high. Game 5 at MSU is another predictable letdown of how easily the crowd's taken out of a game when it's a tie score. Greg, like your passion, some good points. Your logic is off as a young fan. I'm 40. How old do you think I am? Team's not built to win the cup. Yes, not going to make a 180 switch. Dimitri, I hope you saw I called you out earlier. Hope you saw that. The play that jumped with a punked over Mika stick was huge for the Panthers. Let's see. Okay. So, we can be unhappy with the way the season ended, and that's natural. And you should be. But a lot of people are looking to blame people. Cool. Let's do that. No better time than the present. So they want to blame the big three for not producing offensively in the series. Well, Florida's a really good defensive team. Did a great job on them. Need more. Yes. Disappointing not to get more, but I wouldn't say they're to blame. I think actually it's a little lazy to just lay it on them. They are who they are. They want to blame the defense for not being more physical and not being able to clear pucks and getting hemmed in their own zone for long stretches. I think the Rangers defense was not ever built to be overly physical. So I think to expect them to suddenly be something they're not doesn't make sense. I don't blame them for that. They want to blame Peter Laviolette for a perceived lack of adjustments in the Florida series and basically ending up at the same spot Gerard Gallant did his first year. I wouldn't say Laviolette is to blame. Not at all. Thought he did a phenomenal job this year. So, who's to blame? I got a name for you. Chris Drury. In my opinion, it was Chris Drury's actions and inactions at the trade deadline that are primarily to blame. Chris Drury was burned last year with the Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane trades with the way that it ended, so he chose not to go for the big names this year. They didn't go for flash. They went bargain hunting in the discount aisle. They brought in Alex Wenberg and Jack Roslovic. Roslovic was sometimes on the first line, sometimes the third line, sometimes the fourth line. Alex Wenberg was supposed to be their third line center, but then Filipino's recovery happened, and now the Rangers had options. In any event, everyone has known for years that the Rangers have this massive hole at right wing that it just never gets filled. Chris Drury had every opportunity to be aggressive at the deadline and didn't. Why? Why didn't he? You have a team with 3 guys on the wrong side of 30 at the top of your forward lineup, which means the time you have to win with them is ticking. And your answer is Jack Roslovic and Alex Wenberg. The Rangers didn't have a top 6. They had a top 5. The 6th spot was like one of those big wheels at the casino. Spin it around. Sometimes it lands on Roslovic. Sometimes it lands on Kakko. Sometimes it landed on Hedel. It even landed on Wenberg once. What serious team does that? There is absolutely no excuse why the Rangers didn't get a big name like Jay Gensel at the deadline. None. And we said it at the time. We said in no uncertain terms, if the Rangers did not win and they fell short, Drury's conservative deadline would be questioned, and rightfully so. Well, here we are. We're questioning it. Jay Gensel was the belle of the ball. Biggest fish on the market, a scoring winger with experience performing in the playoffs. For a team that was basically a goal short in every game in the series, would a guy like a Jake Gensel or someone like that have bridged the gap? I think that's a fair question. Peter Laviolette said in his exit interview that the Rangers were just a goal short in every game. Do we think maybe a Jake Gensel or any other number of names would have helped with that? Maybe. It's not so much specifically about Gensel himself. He's a great player, but he's the name because he was available and he was the best of who was there. This team has not had a top-line right wing since Pavel Buchnevich was traded. They have been trying to fill that spot for 3 years. It's been a turnstile of people, and it just has not worked. Alex Wenberg, who has no finishing ability whatsoever, was the top-line right wing in an elimination game. And we're surprised this team lost? Do you see other teams who are upper echelon have this sort of fluidity to their roster where they're just rotating bottom 6 forwards into a top 6 wing spot? This is not just a this year thing either. This has been going on for multiple years now. How is it possible that it's just never addressed? For me, the most frustrating aspect of the whole thing was something that we unfortunately could see coming. They did not fill their holes at the deadline. Despite getting Blake Wheeler and Filipino back from injury, which nobody expected. Didn't it feel to you as you're watching those games that they had like no depth at all towards the end? I mean, Alex Wenberg was allergic to offense other than the goal that he tipped in, and Roslovic was cast in a role he had no business being cast in. So for me, I blame Chris Drury. Why wasn't Drury more aggressive? Maybe he didn't think they were good enough to the point where a major move would have made a difference. The fact that we have a first-round pick in a few weeks is just infuriating to me. You want to know what I'm mad about? It's not that they lost. That part's upsetting and depressing for all the reasons I detailed. But I am livid that the Rangers didn't use their 2024 first-round pick, which was always going to be low, by the way, to help this team. And you look back on it now, and you see how they were just 1-goal games. And you got to think to yourself, like if they move that pick in a deal for some scoring, maybe 1 or 2 times you get that goal. And we're not talking about this tonight. This idea that the Rangers can't move from their prospects and trade a Brennan Othmann or their first-round pick is nonsense to me. Look, Gabe Perreault is essentially untouchable, but he's the only one. The reality is you had a career year from Panarin and an excellent year from Kreider, and Drury chose not to help them. They chose to worry about 3 to 4 years from now, when both of these guys are going to be gone, and Zibanejad will be even more of a shell of himself because now he's getting older. This happens to everyone. People will say, and have said to me, it was earlier today, you got to think big picture, down the road. That's all well and good. If you want to be average all the time, sure. Look how aggressive Vegas has been. They're in on everyone. They move picks and prospects out all the time because they're trying to win right now. Because they know that eventually they'll be in the sell-off part and they'll build up again. That's sports. Strike while the iron is hot. Another song lyric, this time from Eminem. This is your moment, and every single minute you spend trying to hold on to it because you may never get it again. So while you're in it, try to get as much in as you can. And when your run is over, just admit when it's at its end. For example, I'm not a good rapper. I karaoke. The Penguins' run has been over for years now, but they can't admit that. So they keep putting Band-Aids on gunshot wounds, and you can see where they are right now. Who knows when the Rangers will have this much talent again? It's malpractice to me not to have made the push. Chris Drury has got to make this offseason count, because for me, he didn't do enough at the deadline to make that count. Patience is whatever. You can take your time, but time is ticking. Thoughts? Let's see. I'm actually getting a lot of comments, so thank you for that. I'm trying to go scroll back and see what we got here. Let's see. I was 10. I remember it very vividly. We're going to get to that in a minute, actually. Neil Mullen, Heel contributed nothing, neither did Wheeler. Dave, he wanted Tanev. I don't think it was ever in the cards, but okay. I argue with Velasco all day long, just like Tampa shut them down in New Jersey last year. Could use some offense, huh? Ultimately blaming on Drury for not feeling right one. Seriously. Yep. Truth. Bargain hunting, I agree. Ding, ding, ding. Nailed it. Right wing first line must be resolved. John, you're from Delaware. I'm from South Jersey. I'm probably not too far from you. Drury screwed up for sure. John Harris, my wife and I put your podcast on our 85-inch TV. I mean, my face is probably pretty big on that 85-incher. So hope I wasn't yelling too much in the house. Ray, do you think? No, I've heard this too. I mean, I'm going to have to say no, because if it's true, that would just blow my mind. That would just blow my mind. Agreed. Yeah. Dimitri, that package is not, who cares, right? Brendan Hoffman's expendable. I don't want this team making any first round picks the next 2 to 3 years, because it doesn't matter. They're not, you're in a window. Well, you were. We'll talk about that in a second. You were in a window to win. You can get back there if you make some proper changes, but this team's not going to win. You have to strike. What are the great? Oh, okay. So Othman, who probably is a middle six winger at best, and maybe it's Kravtsov and Lias. Is that okay? Late first rounders don't pan out. So thank you very much. I had to go back and watch your guys' show because I was doing prep for this, and I just needed to, I did. What you're saying about Drury makes sense. Thank you. Not yet. Maybe. See how the night goes. It's just, I look back, it is at his feet. I blame Chris Drury. I'm just going to say this. This is probably going to be unpopular, but you got to hear me out. 30 years later, 1994 has become a burden. It has become a burden on the players and a burden on the fans. I watched the No Easy Victories doc on ESPN on Tuesday night, and it was very good. Very good. You should all take an hour of your time and watch it. You will love it. Great storytelling, the whole McDonald family thing, like it really, really, really well done. But as good as it was, it reaffirmed the feeling I've been getting for a while now that 1994 has become a burden on us all. Let me explain what I mean. Without 1994, the Rangers would be in an 84-year cup drought, and that would be a burden too, the same way the 54 years was on the 94 team and us at that time. But what has happened over time? Now that it has been another extended period of time without them winning again, is that 94 has just become this untouchable, legendary story. The complete obliteration of the Islanders in the first round, the ease in which they took down Washington in round 2, the series against New Jersey, which is regarded by many as the greatest playoff series of all time, Brian Leetch getting benched in Game 4, Richter being pulled, Mark Messier's Game 6 guarantee, Stephane Matteau's Game 7 winner, the penalty shot with Pavel Bure, Game 7 at the Garden. I'm skipping things, right? I'm not even naming everything. All their significance and their magnitude has grown and grown over the years. The moments along the way, the trials and tribulations that team and all of us as fans went through, the adversity they faced. Again, those back-to-back Game 7s in the 3rd and 4th rounds. It is essentially a true life legendary tale of biblical proportions, which actually happened. The burden is twofold. For the fans, we long for those days. We want so much to relive those days. We compare everything the Rangers do to that team, good or bad. I'm in a song lyric kick tonight. Linkin Park has a song called Lost. I love Linkin Park. And the chorus is, I'm lost in these memories, living behind my own illusion. I feel like we are all lost in those memories. And we are all under the illusion that those memories can be recreated. Even if they win again, it will never be like 1994 again. For the players, they have to talk about and answer questions about that team and why it's been so long since the Rangers have won, as if they have anything to do with it. In this run, the reporters asked them repeatedly about how it's been 30 years, how the city was hungry for a cup, and all this and that. And the players and the coaches have to respond to those questions, as if it's got anything to do with what they're doing on the ice and the mission at hand. We view everything through the lens of 1994. Every Rangers captain is compared to Mark Messier, held to that standard. If they're not doing something we think they should be doing, well, Mark Messier would have handled it differently. Okay. Is that fair to those players? In 94, 1940 was a burden too. The 94 team took that burden head on. Mike Keenan talked about it the day he was hired, about 1940 and the chance. Mark Messier said in an interview during the playoffs that year about how the media was in New York and probably why that was a big reason nobody had won here in 54 years. That 94 team, the weight of what they accomplished is now something that weighs on the players. The story just casts a shadow over them. There's nothing at all you can do about this, obviously, but I think it's fair to acknowledge it. Would I prefer they didn't win in 94? Of course not. That was the 3rd greatest day of my life behind my son's birth and my wedding day. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it has taken on this aura and this life of its own that I do think for the players of today trying to live up to those standards, it weighs them down. It's a burden. And that is what I mean. I don't mean that, oh, well, do you think they shouldn't have won in 94? No. But again, the shadow, the story, the team, the captain, the core four, everything that it covers everything the Rangers do. 1994 is casting a big shadow. The team can't accomplish anything without being compared to them. Yes. This one will last a lifetime. Well, yeah. You know, Brian, the problem is I think Sam meant that literally. It's a problem, right? 40 was a huge burden. Leetch was benched in Game 5. Yes, it was. Yeah. No, Leetch was benched. No, Leetch was benched in Game 4 against the Devils. It was on the road. They lost that game. John Harris, I disagree. And the narrative being pushed now was the Hunter combined with that New York teams. So, John, as a fan of not all New York teams, Some, right? Who cares? Do you think the Yankees fans care that the Mets don't win? No. We don't care the Islanders don't win, right? So no. Again, in that example, if the Islanders won the Cup next year, now it's not 100 anymore. We don't want them to win, right? So that stuff is, people just look for things to. You're overrating the popularity in New York. You're correct the way the Rangers have the most negative fans in the media of all the sports teams. Well, that's... Hi, Dave. Ranger fan too. I know. Okay. We've eulogized, we've complained, and we've reminisced about the good times. So let's look at the road forward, because there is a road forward, and we may not feel it right now, but next season will come. It'll happen. The first order of the offseason is the contract extension for Igor Shesterkin. Now, this is going to be a fun conversation. So this is going to happen probably within a week of July 1st. Like when you can start signing extensions on July 1st, it might not be the 4th of July until he signs it. He is going into the final year of his contract with a cap hit of $5.66 million. BlueTruth asked a very simple question on the page. We took a poll and asked real simply, is Igor Shesterkin the best goalie in the league? Overwhelmingly, the vote was that he was. And some of the no votes, frankly, were these complete losers who root for other teams but come to a Rangers page to make weak attempts to troll me like I care. That's not a comment. Ray, Leo, if you're watching, it's not you at all. You're fine. But please don't take it as personally. I mean people that actively try to antagonize Ranger fans. Ooh, some Blackhawks loser. Anyway, these people are just dumb. Over 96% of the vote was that, yes, Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in the league. Well, in that event, shouldn't he be paid like it? I'm sure he thinks so. He was asked on breakup day on Tuesday about his contract. He says, "I don't speak English," in perfect English. So let's break this down. Players sign their deals generally as a percentage of the salary cap. Barring global pandemics, caps go up every year. When Henrik Lundqvist signed a 6-year, $41.25 million deal in 2008, it was 13.67% of the then $50.3 million cap. When Henrik Lundqvist signed a 7-year, $59.5 million deal in 2013, it was 13.22% of the then $64.3 million cap. When Carey Price signed an 8-year, $84 million deal in 2017 for Montreal, that was exactly 14% of the then $75 million cap. The salary cap in 2025-26, which is the first year that an Igor Shesterkin contract would take effect, is $92 million. Let's play math. If Igor asks for about 13.5% of cap, which is what Henrik averaged on his 2 deals, that is $12.4 million. If Igor asks for the same 14% that Carey Price got, that's $12.9 million. Frame of reference. When Panarin signed his 7-year, $81.5 million deal with the Rangers in 2019, that was 14.29% of the $81.5 million cap. When you put it in that context, I don't see how Igor Shesterkin signs for anything less than an 8-figure annual. In fact, if the Rangers can get him for what Bobrovsky has at $10 million a year, they should do it immediately. That's a favor. Bobrovsky signed for 12.27% of cap, and Vasilevsky signed for 11.66% of cap. It's relevant because they're the highest paid goalies in the league, but they also play in Florida, where there are no state taxes. I've got a lot of opinions about salary caps and state taxes. We're not going to legislate that tonight, but just saying, Florida has no state tax and New York does. So if Bobrovsky or Vasilevsky played for the Rangers, they would net in their pocket about $750,000 a year less. Igor Shesterkin is going to get a massive, massive extension from the Rangers. And it's going to feel like a lot of money. But the cap of 25-26 will have gone from 50.3 when Henrik signed his deal to 64.3 when Henrik signed his second deal to 92 when Shesterkin signs his. The percent of cap shows the apples to apples comparison. If you are comparing a salary when the cap is 92 million to a salary when the cap was about half that, that's not a logical comparison. And frankly, he has the Rangers over a barrel. Where would the Rangers be without Igor Shesterkin? They even a playoff team? He knows his value. So does his agent. And you have to think from their standpoint, again, caps go up every year, but the player's salary stays the same. If you think Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in the league, then I don't want to hear you bitch and complain when he signs a very, very lucrative extension this summer. And you're going to correctly say, Brian, the more that he makes, the harder it is for the rest of the team because of the hard cap. You are certainly correct. He may take a touch less to give the team some room to maneuver because he certainly wants to win. But I don't see any way he isn't the highest paid goalie in the league when this is signed. And that's going to have to be above Carey Price's 10.5. Certainly more than Bobrovsky's 10. And you can't say to me that the team can't win paying a goalie that much money because Bobrovsky's in the Cup Finals for the second year in a row, making $10 million. So I say all of that to say this. Just prepare yourself mentally for Igor Shesterkin to sign a 7-8 year deal of around $11 to $12 million a year. It's coming. You may not like it, but accept it. Comments. I do want the Islanders to win if it helps the Rangers. Yes, I want anything to happen to help the Rangers. I would take a meteor hitting a part of the United States if it helped the Rangers. I don't care. That's my top thing. 5 by 55. He's not signing for 5 years. 8, PJ. No less than 7, but probably 8. I was going to say it wasn't me. I appreciate a good goalie. Yeah. I got another one too. I figure we're gonna go long tonight, PJ. So I had him ready. Yeah, I could see 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. Joe D'Angelo, what's up, buddy? I'm thinking the goaltender position is not as important as the wingers and centers in defense. How come we have the best goaltender and don't win more than one cup in 50-something years? Well, Joe, because they don't do enough to surround them. Those Ranger teams from like 13, 14, 15, those teams stunk. But they had Henrik Lundqvist. They were contenders. That's the problem. John Harris, I don't want the Isles to win. Obviously, there are New York haters out there who don't want any team to win. That was my point. Yes. No, John. So Dave is referencing the fact when I said that I wanted the Islanders to beat the Hurricanes because I didn't want to play the Hurricanes because Hurricanes were really good. So I'd rather the Rangers play the Washington Generals or I don't know, an AHL team. Don't care. Make my room easier. Make my path easier. Wow, Velasco says I make good points. Then I must have made a great one. If he wants to win a cup, 11 per year sets a goalie record. He's going to end up like Hank. Well, again, 10 million. The goal, Bobrovsky might win this year at 10, right? So you can't say that. And a goal that you stop is somewhat as important as a goal that you score. And Igor stops a lot of goals that should be goals. So you have to. He is their best player. He will be paid accordingly. Goaltending doesn't matter as much in the West as it does in the East. Well, probably because everybody sucks in the West, so nobody stands out. I mean, I guess Jake Ottinger is the best goalie in the West, Theo. Maybe Hellebuck. Other than that, again, you have the Shesterkin and Sorokin and Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky. Like you have Swayman. You have a concentration of some of the talent on the East, and maybe that's what you're thinking. So let's look ahead now to next year's roster. This will be fun. First and foremost, this roster needs some fundamental changes. They really can't run it back with the same exact group. In my eyes, for this group, as is, the window closed. If they come back with the same roster, They'll be a playoff team next year. Maybe they win a round. They're probably out in round 2. If they get through round 2 with a little bit of luck, they're probably going to lose in round 3, just like this year. So let's break it down. The players that are under contract that they should keep or pretty much have to keep would be the following: Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Hedl, Lafreniere, Edstrom, Cooley, Rempe, Vesey, Brodzinski. Let's start here. Who is the best left wing on the team? Panarin, right? Any opposition to that? I'm going to wait for some comments on this. Any opposition to me saying that Panarin is the best left wing on the team? Dimitri says Panarin. I'll go with that. We share a lot of the same opinions. Okay. Perfect. Nope. Perfect. Right. Panarin's best left wing on the team. Okay. Who is the best right wing on the team? Lafreniere, right? Any opposition to that? Comments. Any opposition to me saying that Lafreniere is the team's best right wing? There you go. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Who is the best center on the team? Here's where there might be some split opinion. For me, it's Vincent Trocheck. Even if you disagree, just humor me for a second. I know that, Rock, I know that was coming, but humor me for this. Just humor me. Like I hit Trocheck. Okay. It's not, it may not be unanimous, but let's look at it this way. If the best left wing on the team is Panarin and the best right wing on the team is Lafreniere and the best center is at least an argument for Vincent Trocheck, then why are we going on with this charade that the Zibanejad line is the top line? Why? Because the highest paid center is on it? That's great. Panarin's the highest paid player. So moving forward, it makes a lot of sense to just say, that's the first line. We said it at various points this season that the Trocheck line was their best line. I think it's about time that we actually slot them as such. So, for me, next year's line 1, Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere. Okay. So that leaves you with a second line with Chris Kreider on the left and Mika Zibanejad at center. Now, there is going to be talk of how the Rangers have to move one or both of these players. And I'm here to tell you, and we keep it level-headed here, that's just not realistic. First and foremost, both of them have clauses. Secondly, in Kreider's case, a guy who has the 7th most goals in the league the last 3 years and the 3rd most power play goals over the same time frame, we do not have a realistic way to replace that production. He has an extremely, very defined role on the power play, which he excels at. He's one of their best penalty killers. Valuable player, all-time Ranger, numbers going to get retired. And again, full disclosure, I was on the train to trade him prior to the contract being signed. I have been proven wrong about that. He is a bargain at his current number. Mika has a no move, but that's not why Mika won't be traded. Mika won't be traded because right now his contract has negative value. It's long and it's expensive. Teams don't want that liability. They don't want the commitment to a 31-year-old who's arguably on the decline. Hated that contract when it was signed. It is what it is now. Zibanejad's here for a while. So, hey, you guys know there's an opening on Mika's right side? Breaking news. There's an opening on Mika's right side, just like there's been since the dinosaurs roamed the earth. But that's an opening that needs to be filled. That is a priority as far as I'm concerned. But There's a big psychological difference between saying we need a first line right wing and saying we need a second line right wing. And I say that because I think if we're looking for a second line right wing, that opens up more doors and more people who could correctly slot in. However, what we need to avoid is trying to fill the second line right wing role with a third line right wing, which is what they tried to do the entirety of the playoffs. Outside of the first line right wing, the line's most different than the third and fourth. Nick Arena, amen. Ray Ward, you have a good point. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll get to names, although I wouldn't hate that, Dimitri. There might be somebody else in that team I'm actually looking at. We'll talk. While it makes sense, tough sell to the average hockey fan. You know what's actually a tougher sell? Not winning. You know what's a great sell? Winning. Winning cures a lot. So now we're at the third line. I don't think there's a logical case to be made to trade Filip Chytil. And I say that because his value is uncertain given the recovery from the injury. So you're not going to get full value back or anywhere close to it. I think slotting in Chytil as the third line center is just fine. I don't know if his future is as a center or a winger. Laviolette said on Tuesday he felt he's a centerman. So I'm going to work under that assumption and say he will at least start at center. I'm good with that. Will Cooley, to Chytil's left, looks sensible to me. Cooley is a bottom six mainstay for the foreseeable future, and he plays that role well. Full credit to the kid. He can grow into that third line, power forward, bull in a china shop type player. I like what he brings. So that's two of the three. And then the right side is open. That's an opening that needs to be filled. Hold your thoughts on that. I know where you're thinking. Let me get to it. The potential for Adam Edstrom to center the fourth line seems like something I can get behind, and I do think that Rempe in a fourth line role can be effective. I think that when Jimmy Vesey went down in the playoffs, you saw how valuable he was to the team. He said on exit day, he separated his shoulder in game 2 against Florida. Listen, he was certainly missed in the role that he plays. So I can make a fourth line of that. Brodzinski then 13th forward. So I have two openings based on who is currently under contract. Currently under contract. There's a reason we're doing this. With Trocheck, Zibanejad, and Chytil as your three guys down the middle, you have a lot of talent, but you don't have a lot of size. Your hands are also kind of tied there, right? Obviously, no one's going to advocate to move Vincent Trocheck off the year he had, and you can't move Zibanejad. With Chytil, as we said, his injury status kind of clouds his future a bit, so even if you try to move him, it's a bad time to do so. You could try Chytil on the wing, look to get some size at third line center. That's an organizational decision to make as far as what their priorities are. I think right now, that's a hard question to answer. I would leave Chytil as third line center, as I said, for at least if it were me right now. The free agent forwards. Capo Caco is an RFA, and then you have Jack Roslovic, Alex Wenberg, and Blake Wheeler as your UFAs. 3 UFAs are gone. Listen, I don't want any of them. Wheeler said he sounded like he's ready to retire. I don't really care. They are reminders to me of how much Drury bungled the deadline. All three can go. Caco is a wild card. At this point, we need to separate the fact that he was the second overall pick. As I have said a million times, and I'll say a million more, he was always going to go top 2 to whoever had the second pick and didn't take Hughes. The New York Rangers did not screw up the pick. It was the only pick they could have made. This is not a situation where the Rangers took Lias Andersson or Vitaly Kravtsov and the guy just didn't pan out. And it was like their bright idea. And they screwed it up. And listen, I'm on record. The Kravtsov pick was the right pick for me. He was the highest upside guy there. I'm a boom or bust guy. Give me the highest end talent I can get. And with that, you're going to swing and miss a lot. And that's okay. Kravtsov was a strikeout. Strikeout looking. Not ideal, but it's okay. That's going to happen. Lias, terrible pick. Terrible mindset to try to draft a guy that would try to come in and play right away. That is idiotic in hockey to draft that way. No. Back to Kakko. Kakko defensively is excellent. His offensive numbers may never come or may never come here. He may need to go to a team without cup aspirations where he can just play top 6 and become whatever he is to become, if anything at all. I think he's been jerked around the lineup too much to expect him to pan out here, in my opinion. I'm not saying that I think he's going to be a star. What I'm saying is I think he has more ability than he has shown offensively here. So it may just not happen here. I would be listening to offers on Kakko, especially if it can help me with what I anticipate to be 1, if not 2 defensive openings. It's not a situation where they have to absolutely trade Kakko for anything they can get. If nothing else, he's an effective third-line winger at what should be a manageable cap hit because he hasn't scored that much. He said, I had my opportunity with the top line, so he can't, I can't say they don't give me a chance. It's not what you want from a second overall pick, but that was also 2018, and now it's 2024. It is what it is. Let it go. Let it go. He was the only pick at the time, so whatever. Everybody got it wrong. But if you can turn him into an NHL player that helps you now, I think that's worth discussing. I'm getting to that. Trocheck's option this year. No. So his no move ends after the 3rd year, and then it's a no trade. Kakko experiment has to end. I don't know, PJ. That Alex Barkov looks all right. Mikko Rantanen looks okay. Solid regular season player. Actually got better when he came back from injury. The forward under contract I did not mention is Barclay Goodrow, who at age 31 has 3 years left at $3.64 million. Goodrow does have some value, as he showed you in the playoffs, but as a 4th-line player making $3.6 million, the Rangers have other 4th-line players. The cost-benefit analysis tells you the juice is just not worth the squeeze. It is what it is. Buying him out can be done. It does create a painful year in 26-27. If they're going to maximize the cap the next 2 years, which I think they would want to, if you can bite the bullet in year 3 of, I think, a $3-point-something million cap, which he's going to be there anyway, then it's 3 years of 1.1 after that. Look, this would ideally be a trade. Goodrow has a 15-team no trade. I think the Rangers will ask for that list. And I think there's a very real chance the Rangers can move him, even if they retain a touch of money to do it. So, Matt says, there are potentially 2 forward spots open at the moment. If this all happens, 1 potentially from Kakko and 1 from Goodrow. They would be the 2nd and 3rd line right wings because I'm promoting Edstrom into the 4th line. Okay. On to the defense. The following defensemen are under contract, and the Rangers either should keep or have to keep Adam Fox, Keandre Miller, and Zach Jones. Adam Fox came out, as we all thought, the hit in the Washington series re-aggravated the knee injury from earlier in the year, caused him to miss time at that time. He says he doesn't need anything medically done to it, should be fine for the fall. He is an elite defenseman in the league, and he's going nowhere. Adam Fox is so damn important to this team. You cannot say enough about what he brings and the unique and special skill set that he has. Best Rangers defenseman since Brian Leetch. Keandre Miller, bit of a controversial figure around these parts, but for me, I'm happy to have him. And I think he's got a ton of potential. I think he's the best left-handed defenseman on the team. I think he stays, and barring some sort of major trade to shake up the defense, he is likely their most valuable commodity to trade if they would consider. If they're shaking up the defense with a trade, I think that that's something they would look at. Jacob Chychrun, we'll see. Zach Jones needs to be in the lineup next year. He played well when asked to. There's really no reason he shouldn't be playing. He's on a really cheap contract. He has 1 year left with a bit of a show me to it. Should be a no-brainer. Give me Zach Jones. Now, Eric Gustafson, UFA, as is Chad Ruedel. They'll talk to Gustafson about a 1 year cheap deal again. I think he might be open to it. He probably wants something like 2 years. That's a no for me. Chad Ruedel, thanks for your service. Best luck in your future endeavors. Both Ryan Lindgren and Braden Schneider are RFAs. Lindgren has arbitration rights. Schneider does not. Braden Schneider had a great year. Just 22 years old. He has earned top 4 minutes on this team. Along with a raise, he will and should get both of those. He is a big cornerstone piece of this defense for many years to come. In many ways, Ryan Lindgren holds the key to the offseason for me, and I'll tell you why. At this point, I do not think it is in the Rangers' best interest to sign Ryan Lindgren long-term. I feel as though he's regressed defensively. I think his style of play is not conducive to a long and productive career. He absolutely cannot become Dan Girardi 2.0, and that is the trajectory he is on. As I said, he has arbitration rights. Now, the first buyout window prior to the start of free agency, and also prior to when any modified no trades come up in conversation. So to those two players, or to players that have a modified no trade, they can't ask for a list until July 1st. So they don't know before July 1st if they have to buy somebody out or not. If the Rangers want to buy anybody out after July 1st, they need someone to elect salary arbitration. The 4 people who can do that are Lindgren, Kakko, Trevino, and Lindbaum. My suspicion is that the Rangers are going to need the second buyout window. So I think it behooves the Rangers to go to arbitration with Ryan Lindgren, even if they decide to settle prior to the hearing. I think they're better off looking at a 1-2 arbitration deal versus something long-term. And usually it's the offensive defensemen that get the big arbitration awards anyway. So I don't think Lindgren would make a significant jump, but I do think there's a lot of value for the Rangers getting that second buyout window. Which brings me to the elephant in the room. Jacob Trouba. Under no circumstances can the Rangers begin the 24-25 season with Jacob Trouba on the roster. They can't. No way. If the Rangers do nothing else this offseason, then get Jacob Trouba off the roster, I'm good. Jacob Trouba is rightfully getting blasted for taking too many stupid penalties in the playoffs. Jacob Trouba was on the ice for 17 of the 35 goals scored against the Rangers by the Hurricanes and the Panthers. It's basically half. You know what Jacob Trouba was like? He was like a flag in the NFL. Every time there's a play in football, as you're watching on TV, your eyes gravitate towards the part of the screen where it says flag to see if there was a flag or not. Now, I hate that about football, but you know what I mean. In the same vein, every time a goal was scored on the Rangers, your eyes immediately looked around to see if there was a big number 8 on the ice, and about half the time he was. My dad said this to me multiple times over the year. Whenever there's a bonehead play, a defensive miscue, lo and behold, there's Jacob Trouba. And my dad said if he's noticing it, it's got to be pretty obvious. He was a liability. He made some of the most bonehead plays I have ever seen defensively. We'll talk about his ankle injury. Well, I don't think your ankle affects your brain function. That Game 6 play, which gave Florida the lead, was just idiotic. He goes to hit the guy without the puck, which leaves the guy with the puck on a direct lane to the goal. Oh, and then he missed the guy he was trying to hit. So now there's 2 of them going towards the net, and the puck ends up in the back of the net. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. It can't happen in December, but it sure as hell can't happen in June. But let's put that to the side for a moment. You want to give him a pass because he's an ankle injury? Okay. I don't? Okay. Even if I can forgive and forget, Jacob Trouba is the 3rd best right-handed defenseman on the team, and he makes $8 million a year for the next 2 years. You cannot pay $8 million to a 3rd pairing defenseman in a salary cap league. Braden Schneider has jumped him on the depth chart, and it's not close. The one thing that Trouba does well, he's gotten worse at, and that's the big hit. That's like his go-to move all the time. And that's how he gets launched into the boards and out of position because he's looking for the kill shot, and it doesn't work. So for me, This marriage has to end, and it has to end this offseason. Jacob Trouba has to provide the Rangers with a 15-team no-trade list on July 1st, which, again, is after the first buyout window. So, the Rangers don't even know if a trade is possible until after the first buyout window and after the draft, where, as we know, the Rangers have the 30th pick, which pisses me off. Anyway, because the Rangers can't get the no-trade team list from Trouba until after the draft, the Rangers can't use the 2024 one, which I wish they didn't have, as a potential sweetener on a team to take him. And I would guess they don't want to spend the 2025 one so early in the cycle because they may need it at the deadline to do something else or make it part of a larger deal this offseason. In any event, I do think it's possible the Rangers can trade Jacob Trouba, pending who he allows himself to be traded to. First team comes to mind. The Utah, whatever they're going to call themselves, are currently $20 million below the cap floor. Not the ceiling, the floor. And they have exactly 0 NHL defensemen signed to a deal. This Mark Messier Leadership Award, this being the captain of the Rangers, to a new team owner like a Ryan Smith who wants to maybe give his team some identity, franchise face to a new fan base. I can see that being a case for Jacob Trouba, place he can go. In the event that he happens to list Utah there and they can't make a deal, then I do think looking to buy him out is a viable option. The cap hit the next 2 seasons would be the same, whether they trade him 50% retained or buying him out. It's $4 million a year is what it is. A buyout does add 2 more years at the back end of $2 million each, but the cap should be higher by then. So it is a good bit higher too. From just a flexibility standpoint, the availability of the second buyout window as a result of salary arbitration for anyone on the team can only help the Rangers and provide more options. But again, for so many reasons, Trouba can't come back. They do need to make a big change. I think trading your captain, which, by the way, they've done before, Ryan Callahan, Ryan McDonough, that's a big change. If your hands are tied with Mika and you don't really want to move Panarin or Kreider, and I don't feel they do, this is the guy you move. So there could be as many as 2 open spots on the Rangers blue line, starting 6. I do admit that it's the, most Rangers thing ever to be saying on one hand that the Rangers need to get a little more physical in areas, and at the same time talking about how they need to be getting rid of arguably their 3 most physical players in Trouba, Lindgren, and Goodrow. Not lost on me, but I think these changes are necessary. Goalies, look, we touched on Igor. We know Jonathan Quick's back. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned that goalie coach Benoit Allaire stepping back from his daily role. I am concerned about that. I'm very concerned about that. We have been so blessed with his goaltending with this team. We've only wasted it. He's been so important for so long. It is fair to be concerned. Comments. See where I can get to. Mika not the same as the injured concussion a few years ago. That was actually from before. Love Barclay. They don't have enough gritness on it, but I get that he's a 4th liner. Worst take so far. Goodrow's versatility brings value in many ways. Yes. $3.6 million against the cap. It's not worth it. Need the money to do something else. Sorry. Can we trade Chuba for Chychrun somehow? No. Carl, agree on Lindgren. Girardi 2.0. He was 30 when he's... No, PJ, what I mean by that is Girardi signed a deal and then fell apart. And they had to buy him out halfway through. Lindgren plays that same kind of fearless game where he hurts himself a lot. Always going to the... his style of play is not conducive to a long career. So when you lock him up and make that financial commitment and you're stuck, it happens. Tom, $8 million, an hour short of a contract for a third pair defenseman. Yes. Brian, I just told you. There is a way. There is a way. He must go, but Trouba will have some value come April. Why? No, he can't. He has no value. Nobody wants that guy at $8 million that's trying to win something. That's way too much money. Don't be surprised. If their hand is forced, Rock, if that's the only way, it might happen. I think they're going to do something. That's the something I think they do. Let's say Trouba's gone. Zach Joe's not the answer there. Get me a guy 6'3", 220. Well, PJ, the best part about that is you're going to have some money to use. Joe, thank you for watching. We're wrapping up in a little bit here, but you can always watch the replay if you want to. Thank you for joining the show. Trouba got them Wade Redden vibes. Wade Redden. Ugh. Wade Redden. Okay. The Rangers need to make changes for next year. It's not rocket science. I think that coming off the failures, you need to pierce the veil of the leadership group. I am tonight advocating for the movement of the captain first and foremost, and also one of the alternates, of which there are too many. But that's how you change the roster in small ways and big ways. Your hands are tied to an extent when it comes to, the NMCs. But I maintain the NMCs have not been the reason players have not moved, at least to this point. Either they are players the team would rather keep, or they're players on bad contracts that other teams don't want anyway. Roster-wise, that's where I see the roster right now. I see 1 to 2 openings on the right wing, depending who comes back, and I see 2 openings on defense. I think something as simple as just correctly slotting lines 1 and 2 will make a difference. They need a winger for Mika and Kreider. I'm not opposed to splitting Mika and Kreider, but then that puts arguably Mika as a third-line center and Hedel as the second, and I don't know that that's logical. With Laffy's move to the right, there's not really that log jam at left wing anymore. And I do think Brennan Othman could, make a press to make the team out of camp. I think they want to get a look at a guy like Brett Berard. Rempe said in the exit day that he can play center. So if you do move Goodrow out and you don't put Edstrom on the fourth line, Rempe maybe can center between VC and a guy like Brett Berard, that energy type player. If their goal is to be a bigger team, well, obviously Edstrom and Rempe, Twin Towers, right? That would be a good idea there. Right now, contracts on the books. They're $11.3 million in open cap space. They have 12 forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goalies. If they can get out of Trouba without retention, add $8 million more. Not even counting Goodrow yet. That's just about $20 million. Now, Shesterkin's extension and Lafreniere's extension, we didn't really talk about, but that's going to be coming soon too. They would not take effect until 2025-26 when the cap goes up again from 87.7 to 92 flat. The entirety of that cap increase will go to Shesterkin's raise. Panarin comes up the books after 25-26, as would Trouba if he's still here. So, cap-wise, they're not really in that bad of shape. If they run this roster back, which I hope they don't do, if they run the same roster back, they'll have some cap room to work with. I just don't think they can run this. They can't run this team back. Look, you can make a case that a healthy Adam Fox makes a huge difference, and I would agree with you. You can make a case that the Rangers did what they did without a real top line right wing all year and missing a third line center for most of the season. I get that too. But I don't know if Panarin can replicate 49 goals. Probably not. I don't know if Kreider replicates 39 goals. Probably not. I think Lafreniere is going to have a much bigger impact next year. You loved his playoffs. Zibanejad better have a bounce back year. If not, that's a bigger problem than we're really willing to admit. There will be big names that are available in free agency. Steven Stamkos, Sam Reinhart, Jake Gensel, Jonathan Marchessault, Vladimir Tarasenko, Tyler Toffoli, other guys, just giving you a couple. What you do get concerned about a little bit is if you go long-term on a free agent, you can run the risk of blocking kids like Gabe Perreault from coming up. If you sign a right wing, then probably you can't fit both Kako and Brennan Othman, so that it's fine, by the way. It's okay. But you got to move one, or you got to leave Othman in the minors and figure it out. You do then create some corresponding moves that you have to make. If I had to guess, I think with a free agent, if they go that route, I think they'd want to go short term. I think a guy like Jonathan Marchessault would be a real nice fit here in that open right wing spot. It's a cup winner, all good stuff. Defensively, I do think there's going to be openings. If you do lose Trouba and Lindring at Jones in, you're looking for two guys. And you want maybe some defense guys that can bang a bit, right? Even if they get Lindgren short term on arbitration deal, if you get Trouba out, there's valuable money. You can use some of that to backfill the position and some of it somewhere else. Comments. Brooks said he doesn't think they're running it back. Okay. Well, so Rock, in that example, you said they don't have the balls to cut or trade Trouba? Buy out or trade Trouba? Then who is it? Not trading Mika. What would take more balls, Trouba or Kreider? What would take more balls, Trouba or Panarin? So I think you answered your own question there. Trading Trouba, retaining some salary is an option. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. 100%. So it's not six. Well, yeah, but you have to understand that you're also getting the benefit of getting rid of Jacob Trouba. I would rather have $4 million dead and pay another defenseman $2 million to take that spot and have $2 million free. Jacob Trouba stinks. Rangers must get a moving defenseman a notch two better than Gustafsson. Fox has no backup plan. Well, they happen to have one, Dimitri. His name is Zach Jones. So, Tom, I've seen this. I've not seen this in actuality. Like, if I'm Ottawa, I'm not trading Brady Tkachuk unless he forces his way out, and I'm not hearing any of that. So, okay. PJ, I'm going to get back to you. I don't disagree with you entirely, but I want you to tell me who gets taken off the power play to put Laffy there. You missed my power play breakdown earlier, and that's okay. But who do you take off? Who goes to fit Lafreniere? If you move Trouba or D gets much softer, not a fan of that. I would launch Jacob Trouba into the sun. Being able to level somebody and miss, like, that's not what they need. The guy can't defend. The guy can't defend anymore. Chuck Ward, probably not. Nor should they. I'm not of that. $6.5 million for 40 some odd goals and that kind of penalty killing. You're not going to get that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. No. Maybe. It depends, Velasco, because he's got a 15-team no trade. Listen, if he'll go to Utah, I think it's a very easy fit. A lot of sense. Yep. Everybody says Mika. Again, that's the one thing he's done, is be effective on the power play. If Mika can't even do that 8.5, that's just as bad as Trouba's. This is where you're at right now. You got to make it work. So again, you drop Mika to second line, and that makes sense. I'm a little nervous in the power play. You're going to retain. Okay, that's $4 million dead, Velasco. The dead cap on a buyout is the same as 50% retention. It is $4 million. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The only thing it is you add 2 more years of you're not going to get anything back. What are you going to get back? All you want is the open cap space. Cap space has a value. John says Jones getting smaller and need bangers. No, yes. But again, there will be an opening for a banger when you get rid of Jacob Trouba. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying there's a way to do it. Neil, it's not going to happen. Neil, if you were an NHL team, would you sign Mika Zibanejad as a free agent to 6 years, $8.5 million a year? No. So why would you trade for him? Why would you give up an asset and get that contract? Mika's stuck. I hated that contract then. I don't want to pat myself on the back. So this is going to be bad. It was bad. This is a massive offseason for the Rangers. I can't underemphasize that. They are running out of time. Honestly, they may already be out of time with the top end of the roster age-wise. We have been saying this for years now. The clock is not on the Rangers side. In my eyes, if you bring back this team as currently constructed, window's closed. Chris Drury should feel like he's on the hot seat. I hope he does. I really do. I do not think this team should be thinking 4 to 5 years down the road right now. If that's the case, then you know what? Sell Kreider, sell Panarin, sell some of the other guys right now. Just do it right now. Pull the Band-Aid off and just do it. Start building towards your future. Bring it back by the time Laffy's 25, Fox still effective, Igor's still there. Just do that. That's what you're going to do. If you're not going to try to help the team win right now, then just blow up the top end. I don't think that's their mindset, nor should it be. But to tie it back, that's why the lack of aggression at the deadline was so confusing and maddening. It didn't come back to bite them, barely. But the best winger available, the prime prize of the deadline, that would have fit their opening like a glove, Chris Drury allowed to be traded to the primary competition in the division. And it blows my mind. It didn't hurt them, but it almost did. And for me, that's where the season went wrong. The same way that the things Trouba did wrong can't happen, neither can those sorts of organizational managerial mistakes. Can't happen. Either Drury was too concerned about the future to worry about the present, or he didn't think he could put the present over the top. In either of those two situations, it's not good. But it's early June. We'll crown a new Cup champ in a few weeks. I could not care less at all who wins. I don't see myself watching much of it at all, if any. Just not interested. I'll be back in Disney the last week of the month, and I was so concerned. Oh, what happens if there's a parade? I guess I can't go to Disney. Thanks. I was really hoping I have to reschedule that. The Rangers. Okay. Neil, you want to retain salary for 6 years? Can't do that. Keep Trouba if their return is $4 million in cap space. Doesn't change much. Yeah, but Dimitri, it does. It does because you traded your captain. That sends a message. I would rather pay $4 million for Jacob Trouba to go away than to pay him $8 million to stay. He needs to go. He is a liability. Only bad things happen. I can't say only, but mostly bad things happen when he's on the ice. It's got to go. Listen, I was excited to get him when we traded for him. Has not panned out. Call up Utah, make a move. Hopefully that gets done. Thank you, Ray. I was having that argument today. Thank you, Ray. Didn't give up anything. Didn't even give a first-round pick. Oh, Michael Bunting, though. Great. John, they have to be careful not to utilize the assets will try to plug holes. It's not going to be an easy offseason this year. No, look, like I said, you can't give Kakko away. If it makes sense, okay. Core offensive groups average 31 and a half years of age. Drury misses opportunity at this trade deadline. What was he thinking? Preaching to the choir. I don't get it. Again, We have a draft pick in a month or whatever it is, 21 days, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. The guy's not going to play for 4 years. We'd all be dead by then. I don't know. Tom, if I am angry about anything, I'm angry about that. Because you could have pulled that value forward and you could have helped this team. Florida wiped their ass with the Rangers, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say the Rangers deserve to be in the series, but they were. They were only a goal behind in every game. And it's like, the anger is just like you couldn't do any, like, that's you couldn't get anybody better than Jack Roslovic. You couldn't, because you had to have that first round pick. Who the hell cares? You're picking 30th. It's so frustrating. I'm glad I passed your test. Again, Goodrow can go. I don't care. It's not worth it. I'd be fine with that. Actually, I'd put it on Adam Fox. If Foxy gets it, it's his for. Although every captain the Rangers have, they trade away, so maybe not. Fox is a future captain, in my opinion. If you want to give it to Kreider as a bridge, not against it. Not against it. Yankee Stadium. Ranger withdrawal's not going away. As for next season, I'm just holding my breath. Why do you ask? Miss you, Bob. It's always good stuff, Brian. Even some of my observations are for left field. John, listen. I get in arguments. That's okay. Look, we all want this team to win. We may have different opinions as to how they get there. In the grand scheme of things, all of us don't care if we're wrong as long as it works. And again, I'm not angry. I'm not angry they lost. I'm heartbroken because I started to feel like maybe it was the year they did that to me. It's not the Devils, okay? Like, you lost to a better team, and they were better. You kind of put your hands in the air and say, well, the score did not indicate the chasm in play. But the score was all that mattered. And that's what's frustrating, because again, you get a goal here, a goal there, once or twice, maybe you survive. We'll never know. Thank you, John. The best message sent hands down will be doing whatever it takes to trade Trouba for sure. You want to send a message? Trade the captain. If the captain can get traded, anybody can get traded. Wayne Gretzky can get traded, but get traded, right? That is the exact message I was trying to give, John. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sure hope it happens. All right. So here we are. I hope we're coming to the close here. I hope that tonight was helpful for you. It was for me. I needed the outlet to just let all of this out and talk through my thoughts. BlueTruth will be very active over the offseason. We'll have the draft, and unfortunately, wish I didn't. We'll have free agency. And we're soon going to be at that point where literally anything can happen at any given moment that could just blow up your day. Could impact the team for a decade. Good trade, good signing, bad signing. The only constant in life is change. And there is likely to be significant change to this roster. We will definitely be around to talk about it. Thank you, everyone, for your interactions tonight. We've gone live for about an hour 40. I thought we'd probably go an hour 30 because I had a lot to talk about. You've been all great. This has been very calming in a way. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, I hate doing this show every year because of what it means. It means the season's over, and it means it's another year they're not going to win. And what's done is done. Looking forward, again, if they come back exactly the same as they are right now, they're going to have the exact same result. They'll have a good regular season. They'll make the playoffs. They'll win a round. And then it's all going to fall apart again. So they need a good offseason here. They need to get rid of Jacob Trouba first and foremost. And that's why. Because, Carl, I feel that. I mean, listen, I turned 40 this year. I don't plan to die tomorrow. I'm just saying. I'm not having a midlife crisis or anything. But you start to think, will they ever win again for you? And, you know, I had the visions of being here with my dad and my wife and my son and my friends. And again, the hugs and the tears. And, you know, I feel like I was robbed of that. I feel like if we were a little more aggressive at the deadline and really put the team over the top, that, you know, maybe we could have seen it. I didn't sleep very well that night or the night after. Just because. Something I have absolutely no control over controls me. I don't shy away from that. They are a deep part of me. It is what it is. This is the life that chose me, I guess. But, Carl, man, I feel that, brother. Let's all cry together. Like I said, I hope that just these interactions together, that they helped. You know, you were so right, but yeah. For what? For what? Who? If anybody has a Metro Division shirt or something, what do you wash your car with it? I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that at all. It's going to just remind me of what happened. I don't want to see that. And yeah, that Rock. I don't know if you caught the beginning, but when they die, a piece of us dies with them, because you only get so many. We all going to die one day. Hopefully not anytime soon. Love you all, but we're all going to die one day. And every year that they have a team that can do it and they don't, it just reminds you it is one less run that you have. The Rangers will live on forever. We will not. Maybe when we're all gone, you know, they'll win 5 in a row or something, just because, you know, screw us, right? Heartbreaking ending, but thank you for the therapy session, Carl. Thank you again. That's kind of what I go for, right? Because we yeah, Rob. I mean, seriously, I mean, like, why? Who cares? Oh, but there'll be a couple banners next year. It's not going to be fine. If they win, it'll be fine. No. So, anyway, that's all I have tonight. I think I've let I've let it all out for you. Love you guys. Again, thank you so much for all the support. Again, we broke 11,000 followers. I wish it was under a better pretense. Whatever they do, we'll be reporting on it. We'll probably get together again. Draft time, free agency. If they do something stupid, we'll have a lot to talk about. Hopefully do something good. You know, we got to get through the 82. Like Peter said, got to get through the 82. So, all right, guys, take care. Let's go Rangers.